if you're trying to prove your maximal strength, there's a particular speed that your athlete should be going at. If you're wanting to improve power, there's a particular speed that you need to go at.
Hey there, welcome to our podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, could you please do us a solid? If you're enjoying what you hear, give us a 5-star rating and hit that subscribe button on your platform. It really helps us reach more parents, coaches, and youth in the youth athlete development scene. All right, let's get into this week's chat.
Welcome back to the In Athlete Podcast. Got Nathan again.
Good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. We're going to just continue on from our conversation from last time.
Yep.
And we were talking about like technology, but then we want to talk more from a training perspective or improving athletic outcomes as well.
Yep.
And then we briefly touched on velocity-based training, or VBT for short.
Yep.
And do you want to just talk to the people and just explain what VBT is all about?
Yeah, for sure. I think in the last few years, it's probably starting to become more readily available, this velocity-based training, and it's I think a good thing. It's something that I've dived into a fair bit, especially last year. We acquired some at Richmond Institute, and I know Richmond Football Club use it a lot, and I've seen some real good benefits, and it's cool that Inner Athlete also has some units that help with this. So I'll sort of describe in simple terms, it's velocity-based training is all it's in the word. It's tracking how the speed of which you move. Okay, so if it's a particular exercise that we're doing, so typically when we track our progress, we're tracking the athlete, how much weight they lift. Okay, so it might be that they're doing 70% of 1 rep maximum. Okay, that might be, a 70 kilogram squat. Okay, their maximum amount that they can squat might be 100 for 1 rep. At 70%, they might be able to do 5 reps, whatever it is. Typically in a strength and conditioning program, we would prescribe sort of tempo. So we might tell them that they might need to spend 2-3 seconds on the way down, on the downward phase of that program, and then we want them to explode up into that upward phase, and that typically is quite typical across the sort of strength programs for athletes, especially if we are trying to improve expressing strength and power, because we want that to transfer into their sport. So, but how do you actually know that every rep is going to be the same speed? How do we know that every rep is at the intent in which we want them to move? So if the program is all about moving as fast as possible, in that when we are expressing force or power, whether it is in your lower body, upper body, or core movement, how can you actually track that over, each rep? And that's where we have now, and I actually don't know how long it's been around for, I think 10, 15 years or so, but it's starting to become more and more readily available, it's not as expensive as it used to be, but there's a few units. So there's the GymAware brand, which is probably the leading, or the ones that are pretty much dominating the market at the moment, with a couple different units that track these movements. And the more expensive type have like a little string and then a unit that attaches onto the ground, and that string attaches to the barbell or the equipment that you're using, and pretty much the quicker or however you how fast you move that bar or the barbell or the weight that you use, it's going to give you an outcome out of an outcome which would be measuring meters per second. So as you would measure speed on a road, on a car, it's kilometers per hour. In the gym, we're obviously not, traveling kilometers. We're traveling, shorter distances, so it's meters per second. And that's the variable that we would use in order to track where they're at. In terms of what all those numbers mean, well, we're lucky that we've got a lot of research and a lot of resources out there that come from all the smart guys in labs and research and unis that sort of come up with the numbers that actually give us what these speed values and why is it important? Well, the speed values actually give you a precise and objective speed in which you should be sort of training at to elicit a particular outcome. So if you're trying to improve your maximal strength, there's a particular speed that your athlete should be going at. If you're wanting to improve power, there's a particular speed that you need to go at. If you want to improve speed, okay, there's a particular speed. If there's a particular amount, how quick that you need to be to travel in order to train. But we need to understand the research behind what rep sets intensity should we be at, and then that speed element of how fast we're actually moving is actually going to complement all the research, all the things that we've already been doing over years without that technology. This technology now is just helping us get a little bit more precise with our programming. So we use GymAware as one of them. There's actually another app called Metric, which is out there at the moment, which is a video-based one. So it actually uses a video to track how fast you're going. Don't know how accurate it is at the moment, but I'm sure that sort of technology will start to become more and more, accurate, but also more accessible. From what I know, it's a free app, and you can pay sort of a premium price as well, but it's not too expensive. What was the one that you guys use again?
So we use Barbell Mate.
Barbell Mate,
just
cool.
a tether unit.
Nice.
It's an Aussie company. Support the Aussies out there.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's a few more players coming out. There's like Virtuin, I think.
Yep.
I think that's what they're called. Pretty much the same as what Barbell Mate is as well. And they both have an app operating system as well, so you use it on your phone or a tablet. It's pretty easy to use. Very small units.
Yep.
Probably double the size of this mug.
Yep.
Easy to set up. And then in the US, they've got like a lot of like motion capture technology that they use in their racks as well. So this is like multi-million-dollar facilities, which potentially they'll get cheaper and they'll start filtering down into Australia. Maybe 3 to 5 years time as well. I think the AFL and the AIS will probably be the first recipients of this type of technology.
For sure.
And then you can utilize that from a programming perspective as well, which will be more integrated. And then you'll literally just have a tablet and it'll just tell you, all right, this is the load you need to do. And you're going to move it as fast as you can. And if it says, you went really well, it'll say go heavier.
Yeah.
It'll it'll start coaching you specifically on, if you need to go heavier or lighter or keep it at the same weight for your next set.
Yep. Yeah. And, I might also put out there that we probably wouldn't use this type of tech with someone who just is starting out, because some movements that they will learn, they can't do it fast, because that's probably actually going to put a risk to injuring themselves or not doing it properly, or, So a lot of our athletes will go through, ensure that things are slow, they're safe, they're, you're not slow, but controlled, right? Controlled, they're stable. So a lot of the movements that we would start with our athletes are of this nature. And once they're at a point, and it depends, every athlete's different, and the way they progress, it might be 3 months, 12 months, 2 years, until they can sort of get to a position where we're comfortable and confident that they can move heavy weight fast, without compromising technique and safety and all of that. So this is an advanced tool that we use typically with our more advanced athletes. But when you get there, mate, it is so fun, because what happens is what I like about some of the apps, and the one that I use mostly is the GymAware. And every time you hit the speed that you are meant to be hitting, so let's say it's a power program, you're doing 3 sets of, 5 of like a squat or something, and you got to go really fast. Like you go slow on the way down, and you just got to explode up. When you get the speed that you need, it gives you a nice ding sound, like we're like ding. So when you go through that and you hear that nice ding sound, you're getting validation, right? You're getting validation that rep was the exact speed that you're meant to be going at. But then when you don't meet the speed that you're meant to, you hear like a little do, sound where it's like, oh, it's a sad sound, right? And then you're like, oh crap, okay. And then the next rep that you do, you might, that gives you motivation to try and push harder, so that you are going at speed. So if you can imagine, if you had no sort of sound or feedback coming from an app or even a coach, like, you're just going off your own motivation, and like, you probably don't know how hard you push until you've got that direct feedback.
It's after the fact.
Yeah, it's after the fact. And for a coach, for you and I, if we watched an athlete, let's say 5 reps, and all 5 reps, you're pretty quick, but they're actually, once we attach the technology, this velocity-based training units, once we attach that, there might actually be 1 or 2 or 3 of those reps that were way off the speed, and we just couldn't catch it with our own eyes. So typically we're pretty good anyway, but there is going to be opportunities, especially Olympic lifts and stuff like that, where you're probably not going to see or be able to, in your own eye, be able to figure out how fast they're actually moving and if they're moving at the right speed. And what's really cool about this type of training is there is a lot of resources out there on how fast they should be. But not only that, every exercise is different. So a squat's different to a bench press, is different to a deadlift, and there's been lots of research around what are the main speeds and what should you be going at, what weight you should be, or what intensity you should be going at to elicit a particular goal. And that's what I really like about it. It's just tracking the speed with the weights that you're lifting. So if those out there that are currently just training 3 sets of 12 and you're doing a particular weight at 70% 1RM, that's whatever. If that's a strength program that you're doing, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this technology takes that to that one little extra level of or gives you another variable in order to track. And for us, it gives a lot of great feedback for the athlete to know, yep, I'm getting the right speed. It gives us validation as coaches that, yep, they are training the exact modality that we're trying to elicit.
Yeah, and it can be used in really different ways. So we've used it in the past as part of like a peaking block or a taper, where we might prescribe 8 or 9 between like 8 to 12 sets of 3 reps with like on 2 minutes. And the idea is I actually want you to be able to hit a certain velocity. So say if it's for power specifically, so we got 0.75 meters per second on like a trap bar pull or something like that. Right. So a trap bar pull is like a deadlift, but you're into a fully extended position. So the bar actually continues to accelerate up and it goes a little bit light in the hands as well. That type of training, and then say for example, I want them to be able to do some sort of power work on their lower body within 3 or 4 days later. So I can prescribe, all right, if your goal is to hit 0.75 and the velocity starts to drop by 3 or 4%, then that's the cutoff.
That's right.
So we can do multiple sets, multiple reps of power output for the athlete until we get a drop off.
Yep.
Then next week they might end up doing that same program, but they might get 3 or 4 sets or 2 or 3 more sets at that same velocity as well. So we'd be able to work on, I guess, power, but also repeatability, depending on the sport as well. A lot of sports do require that repeatability element for performance. And it becomes like a really good tool you can start to play around with the different variables within that as well. And say, for example, you wanted to do more like, not conjugate, or you can use it for conjugate if you really wanted to, but if you want to use it for like Cal Dietz, if you want to like for triphasic training or something like that, you can really utilize it in measuring different velocities. And, there's some programs where you might do like a more of a power emphasis, like as you mentioned before. Some programs you might, for triphasic training, is a little bit different, where you go eccentric emphasis, isometric emphasis, then concentric emphasis.
That's right.
So you can really play around, and then with triphasic training, you're surfing the curve, and that's what I call is you're working on all modalities all at the same time, where you're just working on a different contraction type.
Yep, that's right.
There's a different emphasis on the contraction that you're trying to focus on. So the eccentric's more that real slow 5 count down, hold at the bottom, and you're trying to explode up.
And the technology actually counts that for you. So we're talking about speed a lot, but it actually calculates the distance, the time in order for you to on the other way. So you just said 5-second eccentric. So for those, if it's a squat, for example, and on the downward phase, you're trying to go just slow 5 seconds down, the technology actually counts that for you, and it will tell you whether you're actually going 5 seconds. Because everyone who counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Everyone's different. So
if I do 5, I start from 7.
There you go. Right, exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that you can actually afterwards you can check the data on the app and go, am I actually counting 5 seconds? Or and some athletes might go, oh, actually I'm counting 3 seconds. There's actually another 2 that I was meant to do, and then so it changes the whole thing. And what you were mentioning before around adjusting the weight, it's and the intensities, it's fatigue monitoring. So to a coach's eye, typically if they're going way too heavy, you can see it. They're just slowing down, and you can tell that they're struggling and all of that. But there's going to be times where you won't be able to see it in the eye with your sort of naked eye, but the technology will pick up if you're doing power programs and you're starting to fatigue out too early, or not too early, but if you are fatiguing early for whatever reason, the technology will pick that up, and you won't be getting that ding sound, and you won't be getting the validation, because you're not actually reaching the speed that in which you're meant to be getting. But that's okay. It means now, as a coach, or we would teach the athlete to know, okay, if you maybe 1, 2, maybe max 3 reps that you're not getting the speed, you need to stop. And meaning that if you're going to keep going with the reps and you're not hitting the speed, then you're just fatiguing yourself for no reason. We want you to keep going at that speed. If you're going below that and there's a certain percentage drop off, like you said, like a 5% drop off or something like that, it means that's actually massive. It means that you're actually not training what we're meant to be training anymore, and actually you're just fatiguing yourself more than you need to, which is really good for us, because then we can track. If we're doing power, we're making sure that their recovery, not only in sessions but afterwards, they're not actually overworked. Which means they can go harder and quicker and recover better for the next session and during the sessions, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So was there any other sort of things that you've experienced using it with your athletes? So I was talking about how we went from how we typically would start with building a good foundation first, right? You said you had a couple of athletes that you've worked with. When did you guys transition from sort of your traditional to using some of the velocity-based?
So we use it probably about 12 weeks out from main competitions.
Okay, nice.
Start from there. So we go like strength emphasis, power emphasis, or then transitioning to more of speed, depending on the sport as well. So it's like for swimming, speeds like to some degree, but it's still more power, because the rate of the limbs moving through the water is not necessarily speed, because you're fighting a resistance that whole time.
100%.
Right? Whilst with footy and soccer, the only resistance is the air that you're moving through. So it's a little bit different in terms of those types of sports as well. So yeah, we use it and we keep it the same exercise each time as well. So we create that familiarity as well. So we might start with the trap bar deadlift, which is more the strength emphasis. Then we might transition to the trap bar pull. And if it's for a more field-based athlete, then we'll keep the trap bar pull in there. But it's all about just going like really fast.
Yeah, it's the same exercise. You're just changing the modality that you're chasing up.
Yeah, so you change. Yeah, you're not changing too many. You're not changing many variables in that case. Like yes, load's changing because they're moving faster. You're changing from a trap bar dead to a trap bar pull. That's like a slight difference in that sense. But you're changing at the contractile rate and how fast they're actually moving as well. So you've got the strength side, which is helping them to overcome the initial inertia, then you're transferring the strength into power, and then power, you just want to get as quick as possible at that point as well. So you move relatively heavy load relatively quickly.
That's right. And I really like when you said when you go through a strength phase, it's going to be quite heavy, right? If we want to overcome force, right? We want to improve, your ability to produce force, keep hold strength and keep stable, in a lot of our athletic movements. And a lot of that comes through just like keeping rigid, keeping tight, keeping stable when we're doing these exercises, and grinding through some of those heavy sets. We know that typically they're around that 0.5 meters per second, and when it starts to go below that, so let's say they're doing, again, probably like 5 sets of 5 reps, right? It's a really popular program out there. But if they get to the 4th or 5th set and they're, let's say, second rep in, let's say they've done 4 sets of 5, this is the 5th set, they're doing 1 rep, second rep, all pretty good, 0.5 meters per second. Third rep might be 0.45. Okay, and we can sort of see a little bit of a change. And then the 4th rep is starting to become to 0.4. Now, typically 0.4 is around where we know as an average athlete, 0.4 meters per second is usually when we fail, right? So if I'm an athlete, firstly, knowing the risk, but if I'm the coach sort of supervising, and I see and I can hear that they're not getting the ding sound, or I'm there, I'm spotting them to make sure that they're safe anyway, but I'll have a better idea to go, okay, they're about to fail this rep, or I can see the decline, then I know to then cut that set. Instead of completing all the reps, let's cut it early, because we know that the next 1 or 2 reps, you might not actually get it up. So for a safety concern, especially if we're doing testing for maximal strength, because that's where we get all their base levels. Yeah, we want to sort of see how much they can lift. But to make that safe, the speed actually gives you an indication of when probably you should stop. And that's what I really like about it as well. Not only is it fatigue monitoring, when you're using lighter weight, okay, there's less risk factor. But when you're lifting heavy weights, this technology and direct feedback that you're getting every rep, and then, of course, we have to have a coach that knows how to interpret it, and we know we do need to teach the athlete how to use it. But once you've paired the two up, how it feels under certain intensities, how that relates to the speed that you're going at, and then just give them to go, hey, if you drop 5%, give it 1 or 2 reps, and then cut it before you actually fail that rep. Or you might just be doing extra reps that you don't need to. You're just over fatiguing yourself for no reason. And again, it just you got to now recover more for something that you didn't actually need to do.
Junk volume.
Yeah. Right. So, and at the end of the day, we know that we want our athletes to be able to train more consistently, but be able to perform on their weekend sessions, whether it is a swimming tournament, whether it is a basketball game on the weekend, whether it's a footy match, or it might be one of our other athletes, tennis players that play whenever. They're sort of a bit all over the place depending on their season and where they're playing and things. But yeah, it's a great monitoring tool for us, and I think I've seen it work really well in the professional setting. It's something that I'm teaching the next generation of coaches to use and utilize, because I think it's so good in that sense of monitoring and ensuring that we're not only coaching and delivering programs that are effective, but also delivering programs that are safe, and that we're monitoring the athlete's health and well-being above all.
Well said. Great. That's it.
We covered everything.
Yeah. Thanks, cool. Nathan.
No worries.
Appreciate it. See you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.
You have just listened to the Inner Athlete Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with the release of weekly episodes. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram to get great tips on all things youth athlete development and youth mentoring.